why do you even have to take the ASVAB to join the military? So today we're going to talk about briefly what the ASVAB is and how to set yourself up for success when taking the ASVAB and why you should care about it. And here's the basics, right? So the actual definitive, the ASVAB is a necessary tool for identifying the strengths and abilities of individuals seeking to join the military. The ASVAB, Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Test, is a vocational aptitude test. This test determines what jobs you should be and or could be good at. It's not what jobs you're currently good at. That doesn't matter. It is how does your brain work? What kind of jobs could you be good at? So it tests things like your mechanical knowledge and or your ability to learn mechanical stuff, electrical, clerical, and there's one other that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But basically it tests your ability to learn things in specific types of fields so that they can use that information to help correlate to what jobs you would be best at. GT, General Technical, is the other one that I was missing. And then every branch kind of uses different sections of it. But here's the big thing, right? Your overall score, whether you scored a 20, a 40, a 50, an 80, whatever, is only derived from math and English. So basic algebra and basic English and word comprehension. If you study those two sections, you'll pass the ASVAB. The rest helps you determine your job. Now, I have seen people who got a 40 on the ASVAB crush their job skills. I've seen people who got an 80 on the ASVAB not crush their job skills. Personally, I got an 85 and I was qualified for every job. I think my GT was 128 and all my job skills were off the charts, but I did not score at the top end of the ASVAB. I was in the 80s. This is a percentile test. So it tests where you fall in that, high school age range of testing. So if you're 40, that doesn't mean you failed the test. That means out of every 100 students, you would be 40th on the 0 to 100 scale of intelligence. The minimum to join the military is 31. There is what we call a Cat 4 waiver down to 24, maybe even 23. The Army opens that up sometimes at the end of the year when they're struggling with mission. This is not me saying this to talk shit. This is what happens. Currently, the Army is actually test piloting where they'll take people who haven't scored a 31 and send them to boot camp, but they do a pre-boot camp where all they do is study, and then once they pass the ASVAB, they get to go to the next boot camp, and you get to take it 3 times there, I think. You can take it up to 3 times. Some other things to know, if you got a good ASVAB score, but you're just a little bit shy of the job you want, don't test it. If you take it again, you go with your most recent score, not your highest score. So if you do worse, you're screwed. And so, let's say you're at 40, but you're oh, that wasn't the job skill I want. What if you get a 30 the next time? Now you're not qualified for the military. And after the first time you take it, you have to wait a month. Then you have to wait 3 months. Then you have to wait 6 months. And then after that time, you're disqualified. There's 3 ways you can take this. If your high school offers it, you can take it with your high school, right? That's a common thing. A lot of high schools do it for the entire grade. If they don't, you can take it at MEPS through your recruiter. They have a way to test you. Or the third way is you take what's called a PICAT. This is actually a new thing that was coming around when I was leaving recruiting duty. And the PICAT allows you to take the test at home. But before you get all excited, don't cheat, because you will have to do a verification of the PICAT when you go to MEPS. And if that verification score is off from your PICAT score, then you're going to have to take the actual ASVAB or be disqualified. So personally, I like the MEPS, taking it with your recruiter or in the high school as the best options. And the PICAT, I guess, is a close, whatever, if you're confident that you're not going to cheat on it and then screw yourself. Because even if you got an 80 and then you did the PICAT again and you got a 60, you would still have to retake because the deviation would be so much even though you passed. So it's just, don't cheat, even if you're confident that you're close. You only cheat once or twice. If that deviation's off enough, even if you passed both times, you still have to retake it. You can't have any notes, no materials, phones, calculators, nothing. They'll give you a pen and paper or a pencil and paper. When you go into your recruiter's office for the first time, they should have you take a practice ASVAB. This will give you a rough idea on just that overall skill score, not the job stuff. Your overall score, your AFQT, which is your Armed Forces Qualifying Test, I guess, I don't know, score, is just the math and English, as I talked about. And then the job scores are job opportunities, not the overall score. They don't tie in together. With this in mind, a 99 on the ASVAB does not mean you should go demand to your recruiter that you get all this special treatment and a special job. Nobody cares. So, in fact, most 99 ASVAB kids are actually not very strong, and they're Like, I only had one or two kids that got like really high 90s, and they were like physically they weren't where they should have been, so we had to work on that. Likewise, we got a lot of 40s that were strong as an ox, but barely qualified for jobs. So like there's a middle ground there. I would say so. The Air Force likes to tell everyone that they're the smartest branch because they require over a 50. That's not true. It's just that they have a backlog of people who want to join the Air Force, or historically they did. I guess they struggled with mission last year. And so recruiters would tell people they had to have over a 50 because it made the recruiters look better. But to my knowledge, the Marine Corps is the only branch that actually has a requirement for 2/3 of people who join being over a 50 on the ASVAB. If you're over a 50, you're what we call a alpha, which it's just an Alpha Bravo category, so over 50 Alpha, under 50 Bravo. And there is an Alpha percentage, I think it's like 64 or 66% for recruiters for the Marine Corps. And so you have to have 2/3 of everyone you enlist is over 50 for Marine Corps standards. That is a Marine Corps standard, not a military standard. And I don't know the other branches. I don't believe they had that. I think the Navy kind of does, and then I think the Air Force is really, really high because they tell people they need over a 50 even though they don't, and the recruiters like to look good on that. So there are waivers and some options, like the Army sending people to boot camp early, but just know that like the ASVAB shouldn't be the thing you stress out too much about. Just study the algebra in English, the math in English, and you'll be fine. Where can you study? Easiest answer, ASVAB for Dummies book. So super simple book that you can use. It does work. If you study the math and English portions in that, you'll be fine. 4tests.com, like the number 4tests.com, is where we used to send people as a recruiter. Honestly, I would ask your local recruiter. I would call your local recruiter and ask them what they recommend, because the odds are that 4tests is probably outdated. There's probably some more advanced study materials, guides. They've probably even got, when I was a young recruit, my recruiter would have me tutor kids who were close. So they might even have that option where like you can tutor people that are close, and like so that if you're close, they might have you work with somebody who's smart to help you get past the math and English section. But they'll probably have some great resources. Just go talk to your local recruiter and ask them what they recommend. And then on that same note, I would say, don't overstress it. Study the math and English sections, and as long as you actually put in a few hours, an hour for a day for a couple weeks, like you'll get there, right? You will be fine. You just have to be able to remember that. Just understand that like this one test is all that stands behind you and being, educationally qualified for the military, that and a high school diploma, and that opens so many doors for your future that it's worth spending the time. The issue I ran into with a lot of people when they were studying for the ASVAB is they would be putting all these hours in studying for the ASVAB, but they really weren't. Like they were like, oh yeah, well now I ended up on TikTok, or I was with my girlfriend, or like this needs to be your number one priority. Like wake up, open the book, study the ASVAB for a day, go to bed, go about your whole day, wake up the next day, open the book, study the ASVAB for a day. Like really treat it like a priority and focus on the math and English sections, and you will be fine. You absolutely will. I have seen people come up from like a 15 and pass the ASVAB, and that's because they put in the work. So just put in the work and you'll be fine. I hope you got something out of this. In case you don't know, the main premise of this channel is that we help service members and vets achieve financial freedom. And so once you pass that ASVAB and you go through the enlistment process, like go ahead and download a free copy of my book, and you can grab it on the website. I'll link it down below in this video. But just know that the military sets you up for success financially better than any other job field that I know of, as well as like giving you college benefits and all of that. And so take advantage of it. And if you want to learn from the mistakes that I made and avoid them and set yourself up correctly, then check out some of our content, because that's what we do. We're just here to help service members and vets use their VA loan, their military benefits, and everything else properly to set themselves up for success. Oh, and I'd love a subscribe or comment down below if you have a great resource for the ASVAB. I'd love to hear that as well. And have a great day.